Welcome to Sports Extra. I'm your host Ali Gauhar. On the first half of the show, we're going to talk about the Super Kabaddi League, the first Kabaddi League in Pakistan, which culminated on the 10th of May, and it turned out to be a wonderful success. 10 teams took part in this event, and there were a number of international players that took part. And I think it's safe to say that it superseded everybody's expectations. We spoke about the Kabaddi League before it began with the chairman, and he was extremely bullish, extremely positive about it, and he was absolutely right. And hopefully we'll get to see it again next year, and it'll grow and become even more popular. So we're going to talk about the Pakistan Super Kabaddi League first. Then we'll move on to cricket on the second half of our show. We'll of course be discussing Ireland's first test against the Pakistanis. Ireland, well, they put up a little bit of a fight. Remember, the Pakistanis bowled them out for 130 and enforced the follow-on. So the openers did a good job by holding Pakistan off, but after the openers were dismissed, the Pakistanis got a flurry of wickets. So if rain doesn't intervene, it's only a matter of time before Pakistan take this only test match against Ireland. But first, like I said, we're going to get the Super Kabaddi League with the chairman of the Super Kabaddi League. I've been joined by Haider Ali Daud. Haider, Assalamu alaikum.
Assalamu alaikum.
And I should also mention your CEO, Strawberry Sports Management. Wonderful to have you on.
Thank you. Same here.
Haider, like I said, we talked to you just before the league started. You were here in the studio. And I think it's safe to say that even though you were extremely confident about this league going off really well, it did supersede your expectations, everybody's expectations, really.
Yeah, certainly it did. I think I was very confident based upon the preparations and also based upon the fact that various multiple stakeholders were owning it even before the first match was played. But still you have that anxiety level there. I also had that. But I think when the first match started, the first match was a cracker, really. I think the decision was made only between 2 points. Between Gujarat and Gauhar Bahadur. And I think that was the very first match from where the crowd also caught on to this style of Kabaddi, which is recognized internationally. But Pakistan has had the first experience of this international game in such a spectacular manner.
And let's not forget that Gujarat took the tournament. They did very, very well. And the idea is, Haider, you know, when we were discussing this earlier before the league began, that Kabaddi has such a rich history, and it's so important that we recognize that and make sure that this sport continues to grow. We owe it to this sport, and if it's if you can get it into the spotlight, if it gets the attention and popularity that it deserves, there's no telling how far this could go.
Sure. I think if you look at it, Kabaddi from two perspectives. The first strand is the cultural side, is the heritage side, which you're absolutely pointed out is the fact that we need to preserve it and grow it, because this is a game which is loved by Pakistan. The second part is the commercial aspect that we have been discussing over the last programs, and so I think the game has shown to the people of Pakistan and abroad that it has got everything, every ingredient is there to make it bigger and better and much more interesting than many games that we know. It's a 40 minutes game in which there are 20 minutes, 2 halves, and a point is scored every 30 seconds. It just doesn't get better than that. It's a competition of 1 versus 7. And so it has combinations of wrestling, rugby if you may, because if you touch one, all of them can get onto you, then it looks like rugby. So it's a great sporting spectacle, even from viewership perspective.
Yeah, which makes our task easier, right? Because the younger generation, the millennials, they want to see results happening fast, and that's what Kabaddi is. You get points, results happening very quickly, which makes it easier for us, easier for you to market.
Yeah, definitely. I think if you look at for the past 10 or 15 years, some of the sports have been shrinking in the duration. Cricket is one. So this game is already there, really. What you need to do is to link it with the various stakeholders, which are sponsors, which are youth for that matter. And I think the first important strand of linking it with the urban sector, I think what was the expectation, I think, that the people in Pakistan, especially living in cities, get used to it, they enjoy it. I think that task is done. But having said that, I think there is a mammoth task in front of us in terms of game development, players recognition, because let's not make any mistake that this is still the awareness phase of this league. This is still the awareness level of this sport in Pakistan, although it has been there for centuries, I believe. So the next step would be recognition, and that can only come if we take it to the next level, and in between the successive sessions we take it to the youth of Pakistan, to educational institutes, and that's exactly what our plan is.
In order to take these sports to the next level, you have to, now let's look at the larger picture here, developing a sports culture, right? We love sports, but we don't quite have the culture. I mean, a lot of people argue that we need more gymnasiums, more clubhouses, districts need to get involved. And you're the CEO, I mean, you created a sports, Strawberry Sports Management, this company for a reason. It was to create a sports culture over here.
Yeah, I think the talent is here in Pakistan, and also I hear some of the reasons that people associate with the decade in the sporting sort of culture in Pakistan, that they also associate infrastructure with it. I slightly disagree with that, because I think that the infrastructure to an extent is still there. What it requires are such players in the market that connect the infrastructure with where the people are. For example, the schooling system in Pakistan has evolved over the last 15-20 years a lot. Education is increasingly getting privatized, which means that the public sector institutes, which have huge grounds, are not attractive anymore for the kids or their parents for that matter.
Right.
So you have infrastructure sitting somewhere else, but the students are getting enrolled somewhere else in the private institutes. So that is the nursery where the players develop. That is the age group where players develop. So I think we also have to take off our hat of pure sports and hardcore sports, and also see as to where in education system you could germinate those seeds that can, over due course, sort of cross-pollinate, because that's the nursery. You need playgrounds, and sadly, the private sector schools don't have that.
Absolutely. We'll pick up on your thoughts. Haider, we've been joined by Ms. Hamda Masoud, who's a female Pakistani Kabaddi player. Hamda, Assalamu alaikum. Hamda Masoud, Assalamu alaikum. Right, I think we're having a little bit of trouble getting through to Hamda. There's a problem with the connection there. I'll go back to Haider here. You were talking about the development of sport in Pakistan, and you feel that there still is infrastructure there. There's still enough to capitalize on.
Yes, definitely. I think what requires is imagination and connecting the various stakeholders right from the word go. Because if you look at the sports system in Pakistan, sadly what happens is that the people who cannot afford to have facilities, their kids would not go till the age of 16 or 18. Whereas those who can afford would go there, but I think the decision making takes place around 16 or 18 years of age. Unfortunately, the kids who are from the background who have had those facilities would not take up sports as a profession, would make it rather a hobby, whereas the kids who are left over are the ones who would become professional athletes. That's too late. Simple. That's too late. You don't expect to make a world champion at the age of 18 when he decides to become a professional athlete. You pick up the stories of Pakistanis who have ruled the world in sports. So for example, Jahangir Khan. Jahangir Khan had the luxury, without taking anything away from him, his father was a champion and he was a self-made man. So he picked up the racket at the age of 4 or 5. That's how you make the champion. Right. And that's what we need to do.
So coming back to the league, and you said that you were surprised to see the response. Of course, you were always confident that you'd get a good response, but even the overwhelming enthusiasm surprised you. Tell us a little bit about that, because you were trending for quite a while.
Sure. I would look at it from a couple of aspects. The first aspect was that the urban population of Lahore, for that matter, that were there in the audience, actually were just enjoying the game. And I could see the second day that they were actually talking about the various terms and tactics of the game. And mind you, they were looking at this game for the very first time. So that for me was the first indicator that the game is getting the popularity it needs. I'm also reminded by some of the kids in my extended family that they go to various educational institutes in Lahore, and they were telling me that these days in our break time we are discussing Kabaddi and actually playing Kabaddi as opposed to football and cricket. These are minor but very important indications for me. On the other front, I think definitely the media covered it like their own game. I would say they owned it. Every channel, every private channel covered it to the extent that's possible. PTV was the live media partner, which really made it look much bigger than any sport in Pakistan has ever been, other than the cricket. So I think, and also on the social media, remember we were discussing that we also need to work on social media these days. And social media, as you know, we are trending, I think, quite significantly, consistently.
Yes.
And all of it was very organic, and all of it was very, I would say, diverse in a sense that we are going to talk about the women match here.
Yeah, that's a crucial part you've picked up, and we'll get back to that. I believe we've got Ms. Hamda Masoud, Pakistani female Kabaddi player, back online with us. Hamda Masoud, Assalamu alaikum.
Walaikum salam. So much for having me.
Hello, nice to hear from you. Hamda, let's talk about the Pakistan Super Kabaddi League. What did you make of it? And of course, I also understand that you had the opportunity to play a friendly match during the league.
Well, I went to watch the very first match of the SKL, and I was told by one of the management person that there would be an exhibition match played by the women as well, which was very surprising. So firstly, because SKL in its own is a big deal for the entire Kabaddi people in the federation, it was very exciting from the very beginning to the very end.
Hamda, in your opinion, does Kabaddi for women, do you believe that it has a future?
Yeah, for sure. I remember when our team was first formed in 2015, we were all minors, we were all under 19, and we were able to win the first bronze in the Asian Kabaddi Games in Iran for our country. So for sure we have great prospects in the future for Kabaddi, for women especially.
Hamda, I think it's also very important to note, and we were discussing this with Mr. Haider Daud here in the studio. You see, it's a very fast-paced game, is Kabaddi, and millennials like you and me, the younger generation, we want to see instant results, which is what makes Kabaddi a lot easier to market. What would you say about it? Would you agree with that?
I completely agree with you. Speaking of the other forms of Kabaddi, there's Pro Kabaddi, there's Beach Kabaddi, there's Circle Kabaddi. All these games, they have this conception that the player has to be very masculine, and because there are more players in the team, there are 10 on each side, so it's slightly slower because you're using more of your strength than your speed. Whereas when you speak of Asian style Kabaddi, which was the form of Kabaddi in SKL, there's a more faster pace, and you also get to see martial arts, which is very unique in its own.
We're going to leave it at that. Hamda Masoud, thank you for speaking to us. Haider, on screen we saw women playing Kabaddi. That was a little exhibition match between the tournament, I understand. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, I think it was a very exciting moment for all of us, let alone for these young kids. Because I think for the first time they were exposed to a platform where they were showing their skills. And the team is already there for the last 3 years. There's a bunch of young, confident girls who have chosen their career as professional athletes, as you spoke with Hamda. And I think it was more interesting because all of them have actually planned their career around it. And the kind of appreciation that they received, they were also themselves a bit skeptical about this friendly match because of various reservations, because it was going at a platform which they had not been exposed to, be it the on-ground audience or otherwise. But I think the response they shared with me off air was phenomenal, and the recognition they got was phenomenal. And I think that really speaks for itself that more than 50% of Pakistan is women or girls. It's about time, I think. It was more of a statement, really. Naturally, it was a league about the men in SKL, but I wouldn't rule out that in the years to come you would have a league of Kabaddi of women as well in Pakistan. So I see that more of a statement rather than just a match. It has far more value than a match.
Yeah, well, it's well overdue. We're living in the 21st century, and these things need to happen and happen fast. Women deserve a platform in sport, not only Kabaddi. And this was the first step as far as female kabaddi goes. I mean, it's very important that it's continuously televised, that these young girls get as much exposure and as much coverage as possible in order to gain that level of confidence.
Sure, sure. Yeah, definitely. I think they have a lot of confidence, but I think as they get more exposure, I think the quality of the game would also exceed the expectations of what we saw right now. And I think in their very first outing, I'm reminded in 2015-16, they won bronze in Iran.
Yeah.
So already it's a promising side, and it's only going to get better.
Well, let's hope that this kabaddi, the kabaddi league continues, the male kabaddi league. We want to see it happening next year, but we also want to see women taking part as well.
Definitely.
I'm sure that's on the cards.
Yeah, definitely it's on the card. And from the response we got, I think that's now definitely on the card. Yeah.
In your opinion, is it getting easier for women to get into sports in Pakistan, or there's still some massive hurdles that need to be crossed?
I think it's still a mixed bunch, and I think from my experience, the discussions I've had with some of the sportswomen of Pakistan, I think it's still a mixed bunch, and it's more of a personal experiences that they have. But by and large, I think it's getting much easier now. They still have some barriers which we can understand, the cultural barrier to start with. Otherwise, I think it's becoming easier now because of some of the inspirational stories that we have seen over the last 5-10 years. You have the women cricket team. You have Insamina Beg, a person who has scaled Mount Everest. And so there are many other stories now stacking up. And now with these girls, so I think it will get easier with the passage of time.
Yeah, I mean, of course, and the family has a role to play as well. I mean, that YouTube video about these female kabaddi players, they mentioned very importantly that their parents were very encouraging.
Yeah, I think in cases of girls, I think the disproportionate role of parents is much more, far more. And certainly in the cases of these sisters, I think hats off to their parents who have actually...
It was Laiba, I think, who said that.
Yes, Laiba.
YouTube video that her parents were very, very encouraging and wanted them to pursue this.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And I think also from these sort of these events and tournaments, I think it will restore faith of parents of these kids that they can send out their girls and they could play with all the dignity and represent their country and be a source of pride for the entire nation.
Yeah, and if international female players come here to Pakistan the same way international male players did, they'll learn so much from each other, and I think that's extremely important, and it'll only help the sport grow. Coming back to the league and how corporations seem interested in it and how it was trending all over social media, the fact that Shahzad Roy, the Pakistani singer, had owned the Kashmir team, that also created a lot of interest and curiosity. We saw Syed Afridi tweeting. I think the Akmal, some of a couple of the brothers came of the Akmal family. They were they saw the matches. Tell us about that.
Yeah, I think it's just catching that excitement of the people who matter in Pakistan. Also, I think Super Kabaddi League ticks that box as well. We were having that frank conversation with Shahzad before he actually took the plunge. And once he was through that, we also had that conversation. And I think the participation we saw from him and from his entire family was just phenomenal. That was totally on the screen. How the entire family of Shahzad got involved into the game. And I think he said something on air as well to the effect that this is the most exciting game that he has ever seen.
Right. We're going to pick up on your thoughts. We're going to keep talking about that. We've been joined by Hamda's sister, Laiba Masoud, who's also a female kabaddi player. Laiba, assalamu alaikum.
Wa alaikum assalam.
Laiba, we were just talking about you, in fact, that YouTube video where you said that your parents really encouraged you to pursue this. I mean, that's extremely important. I mean, we talk about women in sports, how it's difficult for them for a number of reasons, but one of the main reasons is that their families aren't very supportive. So it's important that this changes so more women can get involved in sports like Kabaddi in Pakistan.
Yeah, exactly. It's all about the support system, and alhamdulillah, me and Hamda have always been supported by a family. Our dad especially, who always encouraged us to take part in these sort of sports, breaking the stereotypes and encouraging more females to to take part in the sport. Like you can see the Twitter and YouTube, they are the parts of the social media through which women are being encouraged all over Pakistan now. And this was the first step through which we can encourage more female players, especially students, to take part in a game like Kabaddi.
We were just talking to your sister about this, the little friendly exhibition match that took place during the tournament. Tell us about that. What was that experience like?
It was the best experience. I couldn't possibly explain my feelings at that moment because it was the first time we were actually playing Kabaddi in Pakistan in front of the Pakistani crowd and the media and everything, because we've been playing Kabaddi from the past 3 or 4 years. We were representing Pakistan in international forums, and we were even winning titles for Pakistan, but nobody knew about the Kabaddi, like Asian style Kabaddi league. So this was the first experience. It was amazing seeing so much support and the YouTube and on Twitter, and we were really surprised actually. We weren't really expecting such a huge response from the Pakistani crowd.
Laiba, I understand that you don't only play kabaddi, you play other sports like badminton as well, if I'm not mistaken. So, and I'm sure you'd like to encourage other girls to get involved in sport, particularly kabaddi. So tell us why, if you had to encourage a young female, a young girl who's interested in sports, how would you encourage her? Why? What would you tell her to move towards kabaddi?
You see, we have the same potential as all male players in Pakistan. So this is like breaking stereotypes, and you can encourage females. I always do encourage my female friends in my school by having more clubs and classes. So you see, you have to start from the really scratch. Like in my school, I have my fellow students and their parents. When they see me, like I was with them the whole time, like the other students, and now where I am and where these girls are on school level. So my principal also encourages me, like you can have more classes in school and you can even arrange a sports coach. Like me and my sister have always been inspiration to our schoolmates from the beginning, and I always motivate them that if we can cope up with our school curriculum and our academics, and we are also playing sports international levels, and we're the ones winning titles for Pakistan. So can you, because you have the same potential. Even you could have more because of your own personal masculinity or anything. In Kabaddi, being in the new game in Pakistan, you have more scope for it, and you can go for it, and you'll see the results. It's beautiful, and it's such an amazing game.
How far do you see kabaddi going in Pakistan?
I see it really far. You see, this is the first Pakistan league, and I'm sure that we'll have female leagues too, because this was the first exhibition match just to show the female players in Pakistan in the media that this is such a positive game. It's an indoor game, it's on a mat, and it's so safe for females too to take part in it. And like this was the first match. Inshallah, in the couple of years, we'll have a female league with more Pakistani players even playing, with more international players also, just the way the males did this year.
We're going to leave it at that. Laiba, Masoud, thank you very much for speaking to us. Well, Haider, even more pressure to come up with a female kabaddi league.
That's a very positive pressure, I must say, I think, and I'm so encouraged to hear them there at the field and now here as well. I think this is breaking barriers, one raid at a time.
It's just so important. Again, I mean, I know we've probably discussed this before, but looking at the larger picture, young people need platforms. We're talking about sports now in kabaddi, sporty people, boys and girls. They need these platforms. They need encouragement. And the kind of talent that we have, the kind of sporting talent that we have, it's unprecedented. So even if we get a little bit, just a wee bit, we can do wonders, which is why a Strawberry Sports Management, the company that you own, is so important. A kabaddi league like this, let's hope that it continues. I'm sure it will. That's why it's so crucial.
Yeah, I totally agree with you. I think the other thing I mentioned there at the league as well is that sports is not a zero-sum game. Because I think the importance of sports is not just to win medals for the country. It is an important thing. It is a singular honor that you do. But if you involve your youth in sports, it is actually addressing so many of your challenges and issues. It will take you away from the kids, away from drugs or any other sort of undesirable practices, kids have glued on to tabs and so many other things which does not involve physical involvement. And the science has actually proven that there is that much minimum number of hours or minutes that you require every day to burn your calories and it's very important to stay focused if you have burnt your calories. It is very important. So sports is very important. The other bit is that once we look at sports purely from a prism of a public policy debate, I think that's where the issue starts becoming a bit murky. And I'm a big proponent that as citizens of Pakistan, it is our responsibility, just as it is our responsibility working with other issues of Pakistan, that everyone contributes.
Yeah, absolutely. And then, like you said, it takes young people away.
Yeah.
It takes young people away from bad habits, right? And
Yeah.
we need something to smile about. And moreover, that a lot of these leagues that you create, these platforms that you create, a lot of young people that would be attracted to this are young people from humble backgrounds.
Yeah.
So it gives them, and I'm sure a number of these Pakistani Kabaddi players do come from humble backgrounds.
They
Please
do.
correct me if I'm wrong.
Most of them are.
It gives them an opportunity to showcase their skills, and not only that, create a better life for themselves.
Yeah, absolutely. I think we use a term of trickle-down effect. So I think Kabaddi is that game that from this league, it will have a very clear and impactful trickle-down effect, because most of the players are from very humble background. So the league is just not a tournament that has just culminated in 10 days' time. It has actually opened the imagination of all these people out there, young kids out there, that, hey, listen, if I can pursue this game, which is very exciting, and I think I can play much better than this or that player, he or she has a chance now. And that really connects with the masses of Pakistan. So that's a great
and
message.
you see, I think slowly this league culture, this sort of sports culture is developing. It'll take a
Yes.
little bit of time, but if you look at, there's a football league culture here, a football league thing going on here. The CFL, that's happening, that's starting, and then of course, I mean, if you look at the Lahore Qalandars, the PSL team, they started a player development program which took off.
Yeah.
So I think it's slowly happening.
Yeah, it is happening, but surely it is happening. And I think I'm so glad that the private sector has taken the lead, and the role of the public sector has been very encouraging throughout.
Yeah, so then, we talk about continuing to develop that, right? That's very important, and sort of, again, making it better, enhancing it.
Sure.
And people like Shahzad Roy, like we were talking about,
Definitely.
a celebrity
Yes.
getting involved. It created a great deal of positive hype.
It did.
On Twitter, we talked about Syed tweeting,
Yeah.
and then the Yakmal brothers coming to watch, and a number of other people tweeting, which is why you're probably even more positive for next year.
Yeah, definitely. I think the level of engagement of celebrities or brand ambassadors, I always say that owning a game by a celebrity or someone as impactful, I would say, as Shahzad Roy is because he has transformed himself as a philanthropist, as a social worker, and he has put on number of hats which are impacting the younger lot of Pakistan. I think that's an ownership which is a step much higher than being a brand ambassador of a sports league. And we are so glad to have him on board.
Talking about next year, what plans do you have? I mean, like, this was a tremendous success,
Yeah.
no doubt. But how do you plan to improve upon it?
Yeah, I think there are a number of things that we are looking at now. And I think, although it's rather premature because season 1 has just finished, but I think some of the things in no particular order would be that we would like to increase the ratio of foreign players in the team.
Right.
A. B, we would also like to introduce some foreign coaches into the overall arena. The possibility, the choices we would give to the team owners would also be of foreign coaches as well. The third thing we are going to do is to introduce the Kabaddi mats along with the federation throughout Pakistan through a particular method. Because unless and until we spoke about infrastructure early on, this game just requires a mat. That's the entire infrastructure you require. You can put it up anywhere with the proper surface and stuff. So that's the third step we are going to do. Last but not the least, we are going to work on this brand every day of the year. And there is going to be a very clear and impactful activation every quarter. So every quarter in a caravan style, we are going to take the SKL teams to a particular location. Like we are planning the first one in Faisalabad in July or August. It will be a family carnival of 3 days where the teams will come up against each other. But at the same time, depending on the kind of environment that carnival is, there are going to be cultural engagement with the people.
Right.
So that's what we're going to do.
This sounds absolutely wonderful, Haider. You're doing fantastic work. This Super Kabaddi League was a magnificent success. Thank you very much for making this happen, and we wish you all the success in the world.
You're welcome.
Thank you very much.
Thank you so much.
We'll be back after a short break. When we come back, we'll be talking about cricket. Stay tuned.